Mitt Romney obviously has got a lot of practice battling campaign opponents, but today the presidential hopeful finds himself on the defensive for something that happened back allegedly in 1965. Now, published reports say that while in high school, a teenage Romney bullied a boy that some thought was gay. Romney says he doesn't remember the incident but issued an immediate apology. Andrew, give us the backstory here.
Well, and a lot of this is based on how people perceive his personality now. As opposed to way back
from the
then.
Washington Post, right?
This story, yeah, broke in the Washington Post. But, you know, the Romney campaign has been doing a lot to try to make their candidate appear a bit more edgy, a bit less dorky. This story appears to be just downright mean.
Lately, Mitt Romney's campaign has been pushing an image of him as a merry prankster.
He was playing all the jokes and really just being crazy, pretty crazy.
But that effort to make him seem more cool and fun may have hit a snag. A report in the Washington Post describes one of Romney's apparent teenage pranks that may have gone too far. According to the Post, Romney was the ringleader in an incident where a group of boys held down a classmate and cut off his long dyed blonde hair. The boy who was targeted? John Lauber, a student who was perpetually teased for his nonconformity and presumed homosexuality. Romney allegedly was the one holding the scissors. One of Romney's classmates, who's now a lawyer, says the incident was supreme bullying. Yesterday, Romney said he doesn't remember it, but he did apologize.
There's no question but that I did some stupid things when I was in high school, and obviously if I hurt anyone by virtue of that, I would be very sorry for it and apologize for it.
I think Mitt Romney has not put this to rest and still needs to do something bigger and bolder.
Another one of Romney's former classmates defended him, saying it was likely a joke.
My suspicion is that they jokingly said, hey, let's go cut his hair, and went down the hall. And you know, you hold the scissors close to his ear and you make a lot of snipping sounds, and you may traumatize the guy a little or scare the guy a little, but no harm, no foul.
Now, one of the most damning parts of the Washington Post article was the portrayal of Romney's intolerance. The article reads, quote, Mitt Romney spotted something he thought did not belong. John Lauber, a soft-spoken new student 1 year behind Romney who was perpetually teased for his nonconformity and presumed homosexuality. He was walking around the all-boys school with bleached blonde hair that draped over one eye, and Romney wasn't having it. He can't look like that. That's wrong. Just look at him. A quote from an incensed Romney. A few days later, Romney and his classmates came upon Lauber, tackled him, and pinned him to the ground. As Lauber, his eyes filling with tears, screamed for help, Romney repeatedly clipped his hair with a pair of scissors. John Lauber later came out as gay and led a, quote, vagabond life, according to the Washington Post article. He died in 2004. His family has said that his portrayal in the Post story was factually incorrect, and they are upset he would be used to further a political agenda. Rich?
Okay, and it's interesting to me. I've heard a lot of conservative commentators to say, no, this is not a one-day story. This thing's going to have legs. You consult candidates here. What would you tell Mitt Romney if he were your client to do today?
Well, I think the Romney campaign did get caught a little issue. I mean, this is a total anatomy of a smear job. I mean, what's next? Are they going to criticize him for not sharing his snack in preschool?
It's a little bit strong in that,
but
though.
The problem is the campaign has not come out. They need to be proactive. They need to change the story. And like I said, I think they got caught a little flat-footed. They need to change the direction, put the focus back on Obama. I mean, he was, in his own book, pushed a girl, admitted to doing coke. I mean, if we're going to look back, we need to look at Obama as well.
Well, the point to me on this, and of course the timing, it's not coincidence, Dominic, it happens, but if he's my candidate, I say, wait a minute, get in front of this thing. Say, he said sorry, but I would go further and say, if I'm president, bullying is going to be one of the first things that I'm going to tackle here. It's a tragedy in this country. Every day we see kids tormented for sexuality and other reasons, and they take their lives tragically here. We're going to do something. We're going to have a national dialogue on this. Get in front of it
But then
right now.
Then I'm going to accuse him of politicizing bullying.
Right. Romney just wants this to go away.
Well, it's not going to go away.
He doesn't want the story to have legs. But what I think is offensive, his apology. If I offended anybody, if the person that you allegedly offended is no longer with us to stand up for his rights. And who can't remember what they did in high school. I mean, is that something that you did all the time? That's why you can't remember? I know I remember my high school days. Do you remember yours? Do you remember yours?
I remember the fight that I got into with the guy who was bullying
You
me.
don't think you would remember clipping someone's hair from high school unless you did it 15 or 20 times?
I remember all of those incidents that I was involved in. I remember all of them.
That's a rather convenient answer.
I'm just saying, whether it's fair, unfair, the real world is, and again, you know Matt Dowd, right? He's a credible guy. He's run a lot of campaigns. He's saying this thing could be huge, and it's not a one-day story. It's got legs to it. I'm just saying people have filled in the gaps on the narrative of Mitt Romney. Everybody thinks he's a smart guy. Everybody thinks he's been successful, certainly from a business standpoint, and that would be selling points. But he's got to combat the image that he pays 14% in taxes. He's got to combat the image here of Bain Capital that, yeah, while he knows how to make a buck, he might not do it the best way that's going to attract the most amount of voters. And more importantly, you know, the guy with the garage in the house in California, he's not relatable. And you do stuff like this when there's a gap in that. Don't you think that fills in the gaps for a lot of folks where it doesn't exist?
No question. I mean, it definitely reinforces the perception out there of him, and now it's up to the campaign to change the conversation, which, you know, that's the job of a campaign. We see it all the time.
But change the subject, or should he? I mean, funny way, we talked about Obama last segment, doubling down on gay marriage and really, as Andrew says, owning it. He could take this and make it into a positive and say, listen, I don't remember what happened in 1965. I don't remember doing that, but if I did anything to, you know, hurt this kid, I'm really sorry.
He did say that.
He did, but I would go a step further and say, let's not just change the subject. Like when gay marriage happens, let's talk about more important things. To me, it didn't sound right, okay? Whatever you think about Obama, he's smooth on this stuff. Romney, I think, has got to get his hands around it, or we're going to be talking about this all weekend. You know the Sunday shows. This is going to be the first segment in the A block of every Sunday show.
I don't think so. I think every day that Republicans are not talking about jobs and the economy and the amount of debt that has risen under this president is a day they're losing the campaign.
But you're not going to have any choice setting up the agenda for that conversation. Why?
Meet the Press. Are we talking about this on Meet the Press?
I'm sure we are. And here's why. How many stories about bullying have we done in today's society, in today's schools? It is one of the single biggest issues for parents out there right now. You want to add that to Bain Capital and the questions about Wall Street and whether that system is working.
He didn't get lucky with the timing.
But he's now positioned as a pariah in two different areas, and that's a big problem.
You guys are operating under the assumption that everyone's buying this story. I mean, there was an 11-page story in the Washington Post. A lot of people view this as a total hit job, and that the president will go at, stop at no lengths to try and smear him because.
So birth certificate didn't have any legs. Swift voting didn't have any legs. It's got legs.
Well, my only point is, let's say the base on both sides, either they didn't like him or they really like him to begin with. The independents out there are trying to figure out who he is. This is filling in part of the conversation. And if I'm Romney, I got to do something. If not, events changing the subject naturally here, but get around to say, this is who I am. I mean, I remember the race speech that Obama did. And I remember specifically a couple people who really didn't have a strong opinion about the guy one way or the other. They thought, oh, he's some state senator from Illinois. Really, right? At the end of the speech, they say, okay, I get him now. And I like him. To me, this isn't the same thing, but he needs to do something. Maybe it's not about this, but he needs to do something to say, listen, I don't apologize for making a lot of money, but I get you a lot more than you think I do. Because a lot of people think he's got no clue. Right? Anyway.